When you think about someone with high emotional intelligence, what comes to mind? Well, the interesting thing is, it's often not what we expect at all. We tend to picture some super charismatic, commanding person, right? But in reality, some of the most emotionally intelligent people you'll ever meet are actually kind of subtle, pretty unassuming.
See, they're not trying to be the center of attention. They don't need to be the loudest one in the room. Their confidence is quiet. It comes from a really solid sense of self-awareness, not from needing everyone else to clap for them.
But this is where their real superpower lies. They have this invisible gravity. People just trust them. They respect them. They feel totally at ease around them, even if they can't quite explain why.
So the big question is, how do you know if you have it? Well, that's what we're going to dig into today. We're going to uncover 5 signs that are incredibly powerful, but that most people completely miss.
So here's our game plan. We'll start by mastering your inner world. Then we'll move to navigating your outer world with others. And finally, we'll talk about the path to growth, which really ties it all together.
Okay, let's start at the beginning, mastering your inner world. Because the foundation of all emotional intelligence is how you manage yourself. The first 2 signs are all about that.
And this first one is absolutely crucial. People with high emotional intelligence are not emotionless robots, okay? They feel anger, they feel frustration just like the rest of us. The difference, the real magic, is what they do in that split second after the feeling hits. An instant knee-jerk reaction is usually defensive. Your brain just asks, how do I win this? How can I be right? But a high EQ response, which is born in that tiny little pause, asks a totally different question. What response is actually going to help this situation?
There's actually a name for this. It's called response awareness. It's that little bit of space between a feeling and your reaction. And learning to live in that space, even for just a second, can literally save relationships and prevent so much regret.
Just think about it for a second. The last time you really felt that surge of anger or frustration, what might have been different if you just taken a single deep breath, just 5 seconds before you spoke or acted?
And that leads us perfectly into our second sign. Once you've created that pause, the next step is to actually figure out what you're feeling. And believe me, it is not always as simple as it sounds.
You see, a lot of the time, the emotion we show on the surface is just a cover for something deeper. We might lash out in anger because what we're really feeling is insecure. Or we act all irritated when really we're just completely stressed out. Even going silent might be hiding a deep sense of disappointment.
Here's a perfect example. A friend cancels plans. The surface level thought is, they don't respect me. But the deeper, high EQ awareness might be recognizing, wow, the real reason I'm so upset is because I'm feeling lonely and I really needed that connection. Knowing the real reason, that's power.
All right, so we've looked at the inner world. Now let's talk about navigating the outer world. The next 2 signs are all about how this emotional intelligence shows up when you're dealing with other people.
This one sounds so simple, but it is an incredibly rare skill. So many conversations are just 2 people waiting for their turn to talk. We're not really listening, we're just reloading. But true listening is about trying to understand what the other person is actually saying, and more importantly, what they're feeling.
You should try this. In your next conversation, just fight that urge to jump in with advice. Just listen, and then simply summarize what you heard them say. Something like, so what I'm hearing is that you feel. It is a total game changer. It makes people feel genuinely heard, and that's how you build real trust.
Now, this might be one of the strongest signs of a truly high EQ. It's the ability to get that other people's behavior is almost always a reflection of their own stuff, their own inner world. It's not a judgment on your worth.
And this says it all, right? If someone snaps at you, the low EQ reaction is to immediately think, what did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? The high EQ reaction, though, is to create some space and think, I wonder if they're having a bad day. It separates their mood from your identity, and man, that is so liberating.
Okay, on to our final section, the path to growth. Because here's the thing about emotional intelligence. It's not a destination you just arrive at. It's a practice. And this last sign is the engine that keeps you moving forward.
The real growth, it doesn't happen in the heat of the moment. No way. It happens afterward, when you take a little bit of time to quietly look back and figure out what you can learn from it. This is the invisible habit that builds real wisdom.
So after a tough interaction, you ask yourself questions like these, not to judge yourself, but to coach yourself. You're asking, why did I react like that? What was the trigger? And most importantly, what can I try to do better next time? You're turning every experience into a lesson.
And this doesn't have to be some huge, time-consuming process. Seriously, think about it. Just 2 minutes. 2 minutes a night to just ask yourself, what emotion did I handle well today? By focusing on what you did right, you reinforce those positive patterns. It is such a small investment for a huge return.
So, when you put it all together, what's the big takeaway? High emotional intelligence isn't about being perfect. It's a practice. It's the conscious choice to pause, to understand what's really going on inside you, to listen deeply to others, to not take everything personally, and then to reflect on all of it. Each one is a skill you can build, one moment at a time. Now, having all this self-awareness is the foundation for everything. But the real test, right? The real test comes when you're under pressure, when you're facing stress or anger. So how do you take all this intelligence and actually use it to stay calm when it matters most? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down in our next explainer.